New Limit Break Request is going to be dropping on October 7th, one of my favorite game modes, and I am here once again to show you guys the list of characters that you guys can use here.
お前の道はここで終わりだ。見せてやる。その先の力というものだ。ブリーチ、ブレイクソウルズ。
What is going on, you guys? This is your boy, the Daskmaster, and welcome back to yet another Bleach Brave Souls video. And today we are going to be tackling on this 4th round of Limit Break Requests that is going to be coming, and of course, talk to you guys about the best characters to use and what other alternatives you can use if you don't have said character to use, because this type of Limit Break Request is going to be, in particular, going to boost up this new Halloween Nini as a whole. Because if we go ahead and take a look into the news and look at the rules, we have everything that we need to see. So like, let's just go and scroll all the way down here. Slot 1, enemies are going to be Heart Hollow, and here are the rules: Mind Attribute damage times 2, range damage times 2, killer effect times 5, damage from attribute advantage enemies halved and burned. Clearly, this was meant for Nini. So if you guys have her, if you guys even have her max transcended, you want to use her. Slot 2, we have ourselves Mind Hollow enemies, and this time the rules are Heart Attribute damage times 2, melee damage times 2, and killer effect times 2. So you want to use a Heart character that is a melee character and has killer effect. Now, it's kind of weird because slot 2, they kind of made it as hard as slot 1 when it normally isn't the case. In my opinion, it's not that good. It should be the other way around, where slot 1 has the most rules and then slot 2 has the least amount of rules, to the point that you can be a bit more versatile with your units. And then we have slot 3, where you can just bring whomever you want, even if the enemies are speed, no affiliation mobs. So, yeah, I don't know why they decided to do it this time around. The previous rounds were not like that. Like, if you didn't have a specific unit for slot 2, you can just pretty much use anyone. It is what it is, but now it's time to go ahead and dive into the unit. So let's just go ahead and dive into slot 1. So for slot 1, sadly, besides Nini, there are literally no options. No other options for when it comes to the Mind Attribute, because this is how dead it's been as a whole. Because Nini is pretty much the only character that has Frenzy with Havoc in high enough multipliers, and also comes with the gauge mechanic, and you want to use her as a whole. While her gimmick is to pretty much have most of the damage locked behind the gauge, the whole point of it is being able to fill it up as fast as possible, because she does have the gauge rampage skill. It works similarly to Unohana and Kyoge's rampage skill, except it fills up the gauge slightly when you kill enemy mobs, and this type of Limit Break Request is going to put Nini to the absolute test, because in base, she kind of is, I wouldn't say bad, but I wouldn't say great either, just good, because she only has Frenzy +1 with 40% Berserker and 20% full stamina damage boost. Most of her actual kit is literally locked behind the gauge, because she gets an additional Frenzy, which pretty much turns her into a character that has Frenzy +2, Berserker 100%, and then gets 50% SP boost, can heal up, and yeah, thankfully she does have the start gauge at 70%, so it's gonna be pretty damn easy to fill it up. It's just stupid how she doesn't have Frenzy +2 in base, and if you ask me, this could have easily been replaced with reduced cooldowns upon activating the gauge. It is what it is, but this is the character you want to use as a whole. I cannot recommend any of the other Mind characters as a whole. You guys are probably gonna be thinking, why not use Koga? Why not use Don Kanonji? Alright, let me just point 2 things out. For one, Koga has no damage. He is still one of the best kits in the game, but when you only have Frenzy +1 with no Berserker, no, you're not usable in today's meta, hell no. And Don Kanonji, while he does have increased status summon chance, his Berserker is too low. He only has like 20%, and his kit is dog shit. I'm sorry, you're not using any of the other characters from the Mind Attribute. However, what you guys can do is use ranged holo killers from different attributes. And that is going to change, even though the rules are not going to be that much in favor for them. but at the very least, you're going to be able to meet up with the ranged multiplier rule, the killer effect rule, and you'll be able to do that just fine. You're just not going to be having the attribute rule in effect. And surprisingly enough, we have some really good units to use already. We have 8th Anniversary Ichigo, who is going to be quite good. Now, his SA1 is not going to be that crazy good because he does have the 18% shave, but the 750 Entanglement Vortex is what's really going to help out a lot. He has the full screen SA3, and he also has Frenzy +3 with full stamina damage boost of 20%. And to make matters even better, he even has... Oh wait, no, he won't be able to make use of that, so never mind. But moral of the story is, this guy is actually going to be quite good for when it comes to dishing out a good amount of damage. And he also does have Poise Break, meaning that you can actually stun lock the harder mobs once you get to like stage 7 with this character right here. So he's going to be quite usable, and he's going to be quite good. Quincy Ichigo is also going to be another solid candidate to use. That being said, because you're going to be facing against mind attribute enemies, you're not going to be able to make use of the increased status element chance skill, just like 8th Anniversary Ichigo, because they need to be tailored towards speed enemies. But even then, this guy is actually stronger than 8th Anniversary Ichigo. The only difference is that you're not going to be able to lock in enemy mobs and be able to keep them locked in place. But besides that, a lot higher DPS, full stamina damage boost of 20%. He also has this, which is going to help out a lot when moving in between maps. He's going to be able to get all of his cooldowns back, which is good. And yeah, 40% Berserker with Frenzy +2, 80% SP boost, and also has the increased technique attribute character strong attack damage of 20%. And his kit is actually quite decent. Now, he does have the same 18% shave as Ichigo, but he does make it up with the 3k length beam on the SA2 and a full screen SA3. He's really good, absolute monster to use. He's pretty much the perfect replacement to use if you do not have the likes of Nini. And then you can still use this 3rd Anniversary Ulquiorra right here. That being said, in base, he is not going to be able to put up a crazy ton of damage because he only has Frenzy +1, but once you get the 80% SP boost to proc in, you're going to be able to do solid amounts of damage with this character. And he's also a nuker, as a matter of fact, because he does have Bombardment, and his Soul Bomb is still quite good. Don't get me wrong, it's still quite good because he does have Devastation of 40%, Weakening, 80% SP boost with Bombardment, and yeah, even this increased speed attribute, Arrancar damage to status element affected enemies of +40%. So yeah, it's similar to Yamamoto. It's just that he doesn't have weakened defense to make the Soul Bomb that much stronger and be on the same scale as Yamamoto, but it's still quite good. And he also has a good kit with 3k length beam, 750 Entanglement Vortex, just like 8th Annie Ichigo, and then a full screen SA3. Just a bit weaker on the SA side, but on the Soul Bomb side, yeah, he's going to be your nuker to use for slot 1 if you do not have Nini. Another good candidate to use has to be this Swimsuit Rengiku here. Now, that being said, she does have one problem. She won't be able to inflict status elements, so when it comes to taking on the tougher mobs at stage 7 and onwards, she is going to have a bit of a tough time trying to take them down. However, her DPS is still unmatched. She has the same DPS as Tensa Zangetsu, where she basically has Frenzy +1 with 60% Berserker, but also has 100% pure damage. So you're going to be able to do 100% damage to enemies not afflicted by an ailment, which is really darn good. Just that the kit is a bit on the weaker side because she does have the 750 AoE in front, 3k length beam, and then a full screen SA3. So yeah, the kit is still good, don't get me wrong. It's just nothing too crazy like Tensa, but she's good. She's a great candidate to use if you do not have any of the other characters from the list as a whole. And that's basically the best range holo killers that you can use besides Nini. But with that being said, I can't really recommend, I don't know, characters like Roka or Christmas Noel, as a matter of fact, just because of the fact that, you know, they have a complete range collision kit. They do lock in enemies, but besides that, they won't be able to do much, so I can't really recommend the use of these two characters right here. So yeah, you have 5 really good characters to use, but if you have Nini, I absolutely recommend you guys use her as your slot 1 character. Now, going into slot 2, your best character is easily going to be the Parasol Bruno, and Parasol Bruno is basically the same character as Nini, however, isn't reliant on the gauge because on base, he has Frenzy +2. However, he doesn't have the Gauge Rampage skill because Nini just introduced the skill. It's pretty clear that no other character will have that until later on down the line. But even then, Bruno's just better than Nini as a whole because of the fact of the matter that he just has Frenzy +2, the Start Gauge, 40% Berserker, no full stand, but like, again, in base, he's just going to be hitting harder than Nini, and once you get the Gauge effect to, proc in, you get 100% Berserker, and you still get more cooldowns. This is something that I pretty much prefer to have on Gauge characters, where Nini kind of lacks. So once you completely get the Gauge to activate, all your cooldowns will be shortened, and you'll get your strong attacks back with ease, which is really darn amazing. So yeah, and also has the 50% SP boost upon activating it. So he's just ridiculously strong. He's pretty much one of the kings to use in Limit Break Quest. So if you guys have him, I implore you guys to use him for slot 2. That being said, slot 2 is just as problematic as slot 1, so you kind of want to make use of characters from the heart attribute mainly, except we don't have that many good solid options. But besides that, you can make use of this Fierce Battle Ichigo right here. However, he needs to be max transcended, otherwise he is not going to be doing anything. He does have the transformation mechanic, so once you use your Soul Bomb, you will actually be able to switch to Ichigo's Bankai and be able to do a lot more damage from the strong attacks for 30 seconds, and then once those 30 seconds are up, you'll be switching back to your base form. But besides that, no status elements, he doesn't have Havoc, so yeah. And then we have Mugetsu here, who just got his Resurrection, but his DPS is pretty much going to be the same as the Fierce Battle Ichigo, but without the transformation mechanic, but does at least have Havoc to make use out of the strong attacks. But even then, nothing too crazy. I just think that you're better off using Bruno or any of the other characters that are, melee holo killers. As a matter of fact, let's look into the list of overall melee holo killers. Who do we have outside of Heart? Well, we do have a good selection of characters. The best alternative pretty much being Yamamoto. Now, he does suffer the same problems as the third Annie Ulk, where he needs to proc the 80% SP boost, but once you proc it, he does pretty decently well. He does have 40% Berserker with Frenzy +1, 80% SP boost, damage to weaken and burning enemies of 40%, and again, also a good nuker to use as a whole because he has Bombardment and weakened defense. So if you have him 5/5, you're going to be able to nuke out the entire room, including the tougher mobs that spawn in. So you can definitely make good use of this character right here, even though you do need to get the 80% SP boost. And it's just sad that he doesn't have increased status element chance. It's kind of difficult to get it sometimes when it comes to the tougher mobs. And then another good candidate has to pretty much be this Safui Retsu. She's going to be doing a bit more consistent damage than Yama, but is actually going to be slower than Yamamoto because she has the charge SA3. But that being said, you can still use her. She has Frenzy +2 with 20% Berserker and 20% full stamina damage boost. No increased status element chance, but has a pretty decent Soul Bomb too with, Devastation 40 weakened defense and has weakening on her entire kit plus Drain. But at least she does have a bit more cooldowns on the SA1 and SA2. It's just the SA3 that is just going to slow her down as a whole. You do not want to have charged strong attacks in Limit Break Quest. It really slows the run down for you. And then that's basically about it for when it comes to the melee holo killers. I'm not gonna lie, I thought we'd have a bit more options to use for slot 2, but I guess slot 1 actually has a bit more alternatives that are actually quite OP. I can't recommend these of Yoruichi and Soifun, not 5th Anniversary Ichigo, not Grimmjow. Just use the characters that I mentioned earlier, and you should be okay to pretty much go about your day or when it comes to slot 2 of Limit Break Quest. And now, slot 3 is going to be the easier slot because you can actually use any one you want. But particularly, the enemy mobs this time around are going to be speed no affiliation, so you can use anyone. You can literally use anyone, whether it's attribute typing or killer typing, but the best one has to pretty much be this Spirits Are Forever with Yugin right here. Just because of the fact that he has a godly kit with Frenzy +2, she's gonna have an easy time inflicting status ailments against these speed enemy mobs, and once you do so, you do 40% more damage to poison enemies, and he's got a godly kit. He has the 3k length beam, 962 homing vortex, and a full screen SA3, and also has long stride and sprint +2 built into the character. So you can go directly with full stamina damage boost and damage to poison enemies as the actual bonus abilities, and you can actually make a solid use out of this character. He's pretty good, even though he doesn't have any Berserker full stamina damage boost. but like he's just gonna be able to do his job just fine. If you guys have him at 5.5, yeah, you're gonna enjoy this character. That being said, the only other candidate that I can pretty much recommend besides Gin, if you do not have him, has to pretty much be Art Book Ichigo, even though the DPS is actually on the lower side, and his SA1 is not as good as Gin. He has the Suction Vortex on the SA1, so 750 in front, but he does have quite the mobility with Long Stride, Burden +2, only has Frenzy with 60% Berserker. He does have Bombardment though, so you can actually nuke with this character just fine, but his nuke isn't going to be as crazy as like Yamamoto or Ulquiorra, so do keep that in mind when it comes to using this character. But that being said, yeah, Art Book is also a good valuable option, but he isn't the best alternative if I have to be 100% honest. If anything, you can use anyone you want from here, and you can even use just about any technique character or any no foliation killer. As a matter of fact, you can even use Bambietta. Even though she doesn't have killer, you can actually use her and see how she does with the barrage attack on the SA2, even though I kind of don't really recommend it, and I recommend more stronger and beefy characters. You can use Quincy Ichigo just fine, and he's going to perform better in slot 3 than he would ever do in slot 1 because he has increased status element chance, meaning that you can get the 80% SP boost to proc in every single damn time. Safui Toshiro is a really good solid option to use with the fact that he also has the gauge mechanic, good DPS, good kit. You can use him just fine, and that's basically it for the tech characters that I see here that are pretty much worth making note of. But then we go into the no foliation killers. Who do we have for no foliation killer that we can use that isn't technique? Hold on. Let's make a disclaimer first, alright? Because enemy mobs are going to be speed, I do not recommend using power characters, so let's just go ahead and list power off completely. Yeah, I can't recommend using 8th and Ichigo, but look at what we can use here. We can use White, which is actually going to be really damn amazing to use as a character. Now, his kit isn't godly, but like, he's still one of the best characters in the game. I'd still argue to say that he's #1 with the fact that he has Frenzy +2, 80% SP boost, increased status element chance, although he won't be able to do so against these speed enemy mobs, but like, what he does is ridiculous with damage to lacerated enemies and damage to drained enemies. Like, this guy's a monster. Absolutely, he's just stupidly insane. I forgot to mention this in my initial recording, but Macy 2 is actually going to be a superb character with the fact that she has the 960 and homing vortex, full screen SA3, 18% shave, and she does have the same stuff as Quincy Ichigo where she has Frenzy +2, 80% SP boost, but more importantly, the extra cooldowns when moving in between quest areas, just like Kilgay, so she's going to be a fantastic unit to use, even though she is going to be a bit on the slower side. Kaname can be okay, but the SA1 is going to suck. 7th anniversary Uryu is going to be fantastic. He won't have the increased status element chance, but he does have the gauge mechanic. It's just as good as Bruno's, even though he won't have the start gauge skill. 1000-year blower Anime Ichigo is also going to be a decent candidate to use. That being said, we'll struggle against the tougher mobs, but yeah, and then who else do we have? Okay, that's basically about it for no foliation killers. So yeah, you do have some pretty solid options to use as a whole, lads. Like, the selection of characters are pretty much limitless compared to slot 1 and slot 2. But if we really want to dig in, there are 2 secret characters that you guys can use because they have no rules. And here is who you guys can actually use right now, right? Kilgay and Unohana. These 2 characters have Rampage and 80% SP boost with Frenzy +2. If you guys haven't Max Transcended, these are going to be amazing options to use whether you don't have typing advantage and whether you don't have killer advantage, and they're going to be working nicely in slot 3 just fine. And as a matter of fact, if you guys do not have Bruno, these 2 characters are also solid candidates because of the fact that they can hit really hard with their strong attacks. They are by far the best hard hitting characters that you can use as a whole, and you'll be able to plow through just fine. And I want to highlight Kilgay specifically because let's say you do have Bruno and you're going to be using him in slot 2. Using Kilgay in slot 3 is actually going to be an amazing option because he does provide extra strong attack recharge to all heart attribute characters by 20%, meaning that you're going to be giving Bruno an easier time with giving him back the strong attacks, and he is going to be absolutely absolutely amazing for it. And he has the same kit as Safui too, like he has the 3k length beam, 916 to homing vortex, and a full screen SA3. Now he doesn't have long stride, so you need to give him full stamina damage boost and long stride via the bonus abilities, but good god, is this guy amazing. Like, honestly, the more I talk about this character, the more he's becoming my favorite character to use, and the more I kind of want to go back in for the 5-5. I have to be 100% honest with you guys. He's becoming more one of my favorite Quincy's as a whole. And then Retsu, the goddess, yeah, she doesn't provide the extra support that Killgate will do. However, her DPS is unmatched. She has the best strong attack damage output as a whole, and will even provide the trap mechanic on the SA3, has extra cooldowns on all of her strong attacks as a whole too, and has weakening, 80% SP boost, frenzy +2, long stride, bro. This character. She's a queen. She's a goddamn queen. I still argue that she's second best character in the game, if it weren't for the fact that, well, you know, White also had bombardment, but like, god damn, yeah, she's ridiculous. Absolutely, you can use this character if you have her max transcended. Like, the rules don't mean shit to Retsu and Killgate. You can use them just fine. And this is going to be the team that I am going to be rocking as a whole for when it comes to Limit Break Request. I'm going to be using Nini, Bruno, and Retsu. Now, I can use Killgate to support Bruno, but here's the thing. Killgate is only 2-5, and I won't be able to nuke, whereas Retsu is 5-5, and I can actually do some solid damage numbers with the Soul Bomb, so I want to get away with that and be able to do so. Like, Rampage is very easy to build up with the Retsu, and I'm gonna have a fun time doing so. There are no rules in slot 3, so there's no melee typing, there's no killer typing. You just don't want to use characters that have typing disadvantage, like 8th Anniversary Ichigo. Like, in this case, he is not going to be that good as a whole compared to when you use him in slot 1. So, yeah. Now, for characters that already have long stride, I recommend that on the bonus abilities, you go with full stamina damage boost and damage to status element affected enemies. In this case, because Nini and Bruno are both going to be inflicting weakening, you want to go with damage to weaken enemies just fine. Because they are already flash tapping through, they're going to be able to clear through just fine. That being said, Nini only has 2 flash taps and not 3 like Bruno. So if you want to, giving her full stamina damage boost and an extra sprinter isn't a bad option, but I cannot really recommend it because you already have long stride. You're going to be zooming through the map anyways. Even with a minus flash tap, you can make good use out of this character for sure. And then let's say you have a nuker. You want to go for like full stamina damage boost and weaken defense in this kind of case. Like, you can use Quincy Ichigo. Like, if you have him 5-5, his nuke should be quite decent to use with the 80% SP boost. Retsu's Soul Bomb is kind of the same as Ichigo, probably even better once she gets the Rampage built up. And that's why I pretty much want to use her, because she's going to be, like, you know, my overall best damaging characters out of the 3. And I'm going to be able to get a good amount of damage with the Soul Bomb. So, yeah. And, of course, for characters where you do have killer advantage in effect, you want to go for the Killer Sticker and the Pill and the 50% SP item. In my case, for Retsu, I unfortunately do not have killer effect, so I'm just gonna have to go directly with the Pill, Badge, and the T-set. Probably the Tension type, but if I'm being 100% honest, I think I want to go for the Badge directly. And make sure you have hybrid SAR, SAD links. Like, here's an example as to how I build up my characters. I use these links right here. The more cooldown reduction you have, the better your performance will be, and in terms of getting the strong attacks back. Like, you do not want to go with the cooldown reduction links where they have more strong attack damage and less cooldowns. You want to do the exact opposite and go for this. Like, I have Quincy Ichigo Max Transcended, and I have strong attack reaches time of -14% and strong attack damage of 16%. And Hokuto, strong attack recharge time of -12%, 16% sad. And then the Senkaimon Chads, make good use of them. 25% full stamina damage boost and 12% cooldown reduction. And heck, if you have cleared right now all of the Gates of Oblivion stages, you can actually 5-5 one of them right now. And in my case, I already 5-5 the Chad, have 500 SP on the 6th slot with level 10 SP. And that's how I'm going to build them up. Nini, same thing. I'm going to be running her, although instead of the Katakura Alpha, I'm using the Killer Sticker, and I'm going to be opting for Tenso Zangetsu, Zombie Tosher, which is also good. Yeah, even these links that have like full stamina only increased strong attack damage of 20%, those are going to be very nice to have and are valuable. I'm not going to be running the Shinji Link because I do have less cooldowns. I am not so much in favor of having strong attack reach time of minus 10%, so instead of that, I'm going to be running the Sinkalman Chad, or like, you know, Segunda Etapa or Nell, those characters that have cooldown reduction of 12% and 16% strong attack damage. Bruno, same thing, yada yada yada. Don't mind the links, these are just like extra ones I have just to pretty much build them up for single player content. But like, yeah, again, full stamina damage boost and damage to weaken enemies for both Bruno and Nini. And then slot 3, you want to have your unit be the nuker, because slot 3 is going to be a lot easier for nuking. And that's about it for this video. Let me know how you guys are going to go about with building your team for the upcoming Limit Break request, and if this video has actually helped you out with forming a team and a plan. So yeah, just make sure you have your characters all transcended. Even your links having transcendence is also going to factor in a lot, and you guys will be able to do just fine and be able to clear above stage 20. I'm gonna go for trying to clear 30 stages like I did the previous Limit Break requests, and I'm gonna attempt that because Limit Breaker is my favorite game mode, and I'm gonna do that. Heck, I summoned for Nini in particular for Limit Break requests, so that way I have an easier time at doing so, because range holo killer sucks for mine. So yeah. Thank you guys for watching. If you guys have enjoyed it, don't forget to smash that like button, share this video with your friends and family, subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already, and hit the bell notification so that way you guys are up to date with my most recent videos. This has been your boy, the Death Smasher, and I hope to see you guys all in the next one. So have a pleasant day, lads. Peace out. Bye. Sayonara. Ciao.